Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm Mark, and I hate doing intros, so we'll just give it to Christian. Hey.
Going, everybody? I also hate intros.
Yeah, they're like this awkward thing where you have to think of something interesting and funny to catch people's attention. You're like, I'm not capable of that. Like, good fucking luck.
You had a whole week to think of something.
Oh, God,
Still.
that's not enough time. We also got Jordan.
Hey guys, Jordan here. Yeah, I should have put an intro dialogue into Chat GPT or something.
How do I greet my friends?
Hello, fellow human.
Yeah, how do I talk to people?
Great start. Great start. Hey, let's do some housekeeping and we'll get into that cool topic tonight. We're talking about Commander Puretide and his students, of which he has many. But before we get to that, go check out Redbubble. Redbubble. You can go buy merchandise off us. If you see this cool background I have, it's a Lorehammer banner. You too can get one of those. There's a guy in the chat, Grimaldus, he showed me a sensual picture of his wife all posed up against a Lorehammer banner, which I liked it.
Now you're gonna post those pics all over the internet for everyone to enjoy.
Wow, to the OnlyFans that we have, of course. You know, it's not free. Yeah. This shit ain't free.
I thought we could give it to the patrons. Whore your wives. No.
It's like OnlyFans with extra steps. You got to be the pimp.
But yeah, go check out Redbubble. We got a lot of different fucking merchandise on there, from t-shirts to banners, from I don't know, coffee cups to phone cases. So go check that out, support the show, and get some type of item.
Yeah, and Christmas is coming up, so now's the perfect time to do a little last minute Christmas shopping. Your wife will love Warhammer lingerie.
Yeah. When I lived in Calgary, I just bought 1,000 stickers. I rode the bus all day long, just slapping them on bus stop to bus stop. So, you know, you too can do that in your local city.
Let Lorehammer take over the world. And of course, to continue supporting the show without merchandise, definitely join our Patreon. You can join the Imperial Tithe and support the show. And you get some advantages, like having an ad-free version of the show for only $2.50. $2.50, and you don't have to listen to any more stupid ads. Sorry to our advertisers if you're listening. And also, you can get the video version if you want to see our beautiful, completely unmade up faces. For only $5 a month, you get the video version as well. So, yeah, you could see Jordan, Mark, and Christian's beautiful mugs.
Yeah, we're getting into the winter time, so you boys are growing out beards. I already have mine to protect myself from the Panama sun. That's the Canadian way as well. So that's nice. Come check out our faces, I suppose.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to jump on the live stream, you can also do that through Patreon as well. We have a live chat room during the show. You will hear us if you're on the audio only. You'll hear us interject with chats from the chat room. And we also do call-in guests at the end of the episode, which is always fun. We enjoy the call-in guests.
Love the call-in guests. One day, I'm going to fly somebody down to my studio and have an in-studio call-in guest, and that'll be pretty sweet. But I'm still working out the logistics and legality of that one.
By definition, that's not a call-in. That's human trafficking, I think they call it.
Why did I move to Panama, you wonder, hey? Was it the cocaine or the human trafficking? Both?
A little of both? Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump into our episode. Today we're doing a Tau episode, Commander Puretide and his students. Do you guys know anything about Commander Puretide?
Yeah, I do, but I'll save my thoughts on it until the end of the episode, because I do have some thoughts. Also, I was one of his students, as you can tell. I am Commander Shadowsun, so I'm his most faithful disciple.
Is that because you have like a tiny pecker, so it's like not fully get in where it needs to, or
Sure, let's go with that.
Jordan, you ever heard of Commander Puretide before?
Not really till you sent me the notes, but I will admit I don't delve into Tau lore all that much, so
you're better off not doing it.
I think that is the right answer. I don't dabble with that shit. I ain't no Xeno sympathizer. Well, Commander Puretide was a legendary figure from 651 to 731 in M41 in the annals of the Tau Empire. a name synonymous with tactical brilliance and the expansion of Tau influence during the second sphere of expansion. His contributions to the Tau military and philosophy have left an indelible indelible mark on their history, shaping the way of war for generations to come. Yeah, Commander Puretide's an interesting character because he's kind of like a mythos, a legend among the Tau. He's also like pretty old too. Like he's not around anymore, obviously. He was around during the second sphere expansion. So this was, 3 expansions ago. But he's got this like mythos around him where everyone kind of looks to him. He led the first kind of wars out into the galaxy. The first sphere of expansion, there was kind of solar system, so they didn't really run into much trouble. But with the second one, they started to run into a lot of trouble and kind of had to really figure out how intergalactic, well, just galactic warfare worked. So he came up with a bunch of different ways to kill things. Brilliant mind.
Yeah, and like you said, he's like a cultural icon. Like everybody, you mentioned Puretide on any, I forget what they call the different Tau worlds, but you mention him and everyone knows who he is and what you're talking about.
Yeah. The myth himself. So there really isn't a lot about him, and most of the stuff about him is kind of steeped in that myth and mystery because it's pretty ancient stuff. Not really, but ancient for Tau times. So, I kind of came up with a couple different things that he was known for. And one of the biggest things that he was known for was his expansionist vision. Under Puretide's leadership, the Tau Empire expanded its borders significantly, founding numerous steps. Among these, Elsir and Tashvar stand as enduring testaments to the efforts and sacrifice of his warriors. His campaigns pushed the boundaries of Tau-controlled space, facing off against countless Xeno species and human colonists. His mastery of long-range firepower and dynamic maneuver warfare made him a fearsome adversary, even against the savage orcs. It is said that Puretide's tactics frustrated the Greenskins to such an extent that battle became a grim endeavor for them. No small feat when dealing with a race that revels in combat. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like he kind of even pushed the orcs into being like, I do not like fighting this guy.
This isn't fun anymore. It is kind of how you feel when you play Tau on the tabletop, at least back when you played them, Mark, in what is that, 4th edition?
Sure.
Where you're just like you table people like turn 1. So like the orcs arrived at the battlefield looking for a fight and they just get annihilated in the first round and they're like, well, that wasn't even a good fight. We just got
let me introduce you to my railgun.
Mark, were the Tau your first army?
Yeah, they were my very first army for sure. Yeah. We had Graham McNeil on who wrote the very first Tau book and the very first codex I had, and that was fucking really cool to have him on the show because he was the guy who got me into this whole fucking thing. So kind of a cool little thing.
It's funny that you chose the worst faction to get into 40k with, but
I didn't know any better. I was just a weeb like everyone else my age. I'm like, wow, mech suits. I want to be cool and drive a mech suit.
Yeah, I feel like Tau, and maybe Eldar are like, people just don't get into those two races that much.
A certain kind of person gets into them.
Yeah. The people that do, you question them for sure. You're like, don't check under his mattress. There's hentai
But I'm
there.
very excited to get into them today. So if that's any consolation.
I was thinking about Puretide and his name, and lots of these Tau commanders, we have full drawn out names, but with Commander Puretide, it's one of those things, like I was saying, he's kind of just like this myth. We don't really know his full name. With like Farsight, we have Oshova, Shaso Oshova. This bunch in it, it does what caste you're from, then it does the ranking, then it does your planet, then it does all your personal names. But we don't know any of that for Commander Puretide. Even his planetary name, we can assume it's Tau, but it might not be. It might be from one of the first sphere colonization planets. But he's probably from Tau. I even asked chatbot like, hey, what do you think Puretide's name was? And it's like just gave me a bunch of weird Tau stuff that I'm like, well, okay, I don't fucking trust you. Don't trust the machine.
I remember there being like early on a kind of translation system that they had in their books, which is how you could like, can you reverse engineer what his name is in Tau?
You could, but like,
Town.
I know what you're talking about. That like, it was more like it wouldn't actually translate it into Tau. So it just gave you the symbol for the letter A. So you could spell Puretide
Right.
in Tau, but it would still just say,
But it would still say Puretide.
like, where Oshova means Farsight. So I couldn't find like his actual like name in Tau, which, you know, maybe if anyone else has found it, or maybe GW needs to write that, because that seems kind of important. It's like, why do they name all their tanks after fish when they come from a desert planet and they don't have devilfish and manta rays? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I think we need to know his actual Tau name to get to know the man. But,
get to know him deeper. Yeah.
Defending Daleth against the Damocles Crusade. One of Puretide's most notable campaigns and challenges came during the Damocles Crusade, when Imperial forces sought to suppress Tau expansion. As defenders of Daleth, a major Tau sept, Puretide orchestrated a masterful defense against superior firepower and numbers of the Imperium. Although the Crusade eventually reached a stalemate, Puretide's strategies not only preserved Daleth, but also demonstrated the potential of the Tau military doctrine against one of the galaxy's most fearsome powers. And we'll talk about their doctrines later. But this one, it sounded like they definitely were using a Kauyon tactic, where they were masters of defense and luring people in for the right moment. And that's kind of how they were able to take out the Imperium or push them back, where it wasn't the Monta, where it's like this aggressive, like, charge forward. Like maybe against the orcs in that first little bit we were reading, maybe they were more Monta, where they were going hard against the orcs, where now this was more of a defensive campaign.
Buzz in the chat says, I've always taken it as the name of their ships/suits that we get are what the Imperial call them.
Yeah, for sure. And like the Imperium are such racists, where it's like they just call them devilfish. Like they call the Tau fish people, even though they come from a desert planet and they're more like camels.
Yeah, it's a pejorative that the Imperium uses to refer to the Tau.
Some other pejoratives they have are like bendies for the Farud.
There's a whole list of Imperial slurs if you want to subscribe to the Patreon to get the whole list.
Yeah, I'll give you one more just as a teaser. You ever heard of squats for the Votan?
Can't use that word. That's our word.
That's our word. The next thing that kind of happened to our boy Puretide that we know about is wounded but resilient. Toward the end of his military career, Puretide was gravely injured during a surprise raid while inspecting his troops. This injury marked the end of his active service. He retired to scheduled Mount Kanji on Daleth, spending his final years as a hermit. However, Puretide's retreat from the battlefield did not mean his end to the contributions. From the mountaintop sanctuary, he wrote extensively on philosophy and the art of war, codifying doctrines that would serve as the foundation for the Tau military for centuries to come. This is kind of cool too, just kind of, you know, philosophy, man. I feel like a lot of our episodes, when we talk philosophy, it comes to Tau, whether we're talking about communism and the greater good, or we talked about with one of our guests, Rio, long ago, about warrior kings and how ethereals might be kind of close to that, but not quite. And it seems like we always get into this.
So this is actually what I wanted to bring up about Puretide specifically, so I guess I'll throw it in here. Like traditionally you have the joke of communist Tau, but really they're more like the perfect Platonic society in the Republic that Plato writes about. And then Puretide specifically, I get like really strong, of course, like Art of War / like Miyamoto Musashi, who wrote the Book of Five Rings. If some listeners might be familiar with that, it's like he was like a samurai duelist who like was pretty much the best swordsman of his time, if not of all time. Like he killed like 60 something people in like one-on-one duels, and he was like a philosopher and a warrior, right? So he would write the Book of Five Rings, and the Book of Five Rings, each chapter is actually an element, like air, earth, fire, water, which fits with the Tau theme of like their caste system, right? And same with Plato and the Platonic solids, they're all based off of those traditional Greek elements as well, like earth, air, fire, water. So obviously whoever the author was like taking all these elemental ideas and like bringing them together.
Yeah. Any great warrior will tell you that the first step in becoming a great warrior isn't doing push-ups to train your body physically. It's actually training your mind. You know, you got to be able to outthink your opponent. You got to be able to strategize and think far ahead of them. So even if you're not the best swordsman, your mind's better than theirs, and then you can counter them that way.
Or just even mental resilience too is something that they harp on a lot in the military. Anyone can learn to practice to run fast or do more push-ups. You can train your body to do that, but you have to have the mental fortitude to keep going and not quit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all in the same loop.
Mm-hmm. You know how they have the Imperial Uplifting Primer book, and they actually have that as something you can buy and hold and read in real life. It'd be cool to see.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on it.
It'd be cool to see the Art of War book from Puretide if they actually ever made such a thing and read like his doctrine. And
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah,
Dude, we can just write one on ChatGPT.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're just gonna reskin the actual Art of War book by Sun Tzu, and then just pass it off with the Tau cover. It's all it's public domain now, right? So
yeah, just a thought onto the whole like space communist too. I think we sometimes we maybe interpose our own like history a little too much onto, you know, other races, that where it's like the Tau are their own thing. You know, yeah, they maybe are collectivists in certain ways, but like, I don't know, like ants are collectivists, bees are collectivists, but they're not communists. And they've those, you know, societies, I know it's like very much more rudimentary than an advanced civilization, but those like societies have reached some sort of equilibrium. When you're talking about like different species, it's hard to like judge them as like from our on our terms, if that makes sense.
And even just to take that even a step more local, like communism on Earth has taken many different forms where it's like, well, what really is it even on ours? Like, is China right now communist, or are they capitalist communists? You know, you could really get wild within, like, there's no two flowers look the same.
Yeah, and there's even like ancient Christian communities that were they would call communitarian, so they shared everything in common, and they were like communist in that sense, but they weren't like state communist. You know, they weren't trying to impose communism on the rest of society. So there's all sorts of like, when you're talking about this thing, the definition can get very broad and murky. But
I want to agree with you, Jordan, but specifically with 40K, like the authors very intentionally lift things from history, and like very obviously.
But is that what's happening with the Tau specifically? Like
specifically, yeah, like all those things I just mentioned, absolutely. Whoever the author was, probably Graham McNeil, who was putting together like the Tau mythos, 110% leaned on Plato's Republic, the Book of Five Rings, and the Art of War. 100% as like a baseline. And I'm sure there's other stuff thrown in, like you have your general anime, manga, tech suits and things, right? But it's all very Eastern coded. And so like I do like, Jordan, that like, yeah, sometimes you kind of got to take your real world politics out of it and just live in the universe for the universe sake. But I would argue for 40K specifically,
well, I know,
and to me, like, it's a cool treat. Like, I love history, right? So when I see those things pop up, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So you could do it from both angles.
Yeah, but even the humans, the Imperium is like lifted from the Roman Empire too. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Lifted from the
and
Roman
like
Empire.
Stalinist Russia, and like, you know, a little bit of fascism sprinkled over it, right? But that's what I'm saying is like, yes, it's its own thing, but it also has these like historical elements that they're cool, like Easter eggs is how I would put it. Yeah, they aren't strictly, you know, Japanese. They are Tau. They aren't strictly samurai. They, you know,
I think you could just like you know, be careful not to pigeonhole it, you know, if you're building an army or whatever. Not
yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to do like red hammer and sickles on your Tau. So
no. When you get to that level, it's like it's the reverse, where you're like literally lifting real life history. It's cool how it's the influence from it, and it's like an Easter egg. Like I said, it's not like they named this Tau character like, you know, Matsuyomo Musashi or So Tzu, right? Like they are cool little Easter eggs that you can pick up on. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, Fuzz says they're amalgamations of our own history to make something new.
Yeah, essentially.
He also says Puretide's treatise on war has a name, but there's also the Code of Fire, which is a fire warrior doctrine writing. Sorry, blah blah. So I don't know if you guys know anything about that.
You know, I just know that that's a thing, but it's not like the Imperial Uplifting Primer where it's actually like a fucking book that you can hit somebody with. It's more just like a title, you know.
Yeah.
But this is basically,
And that's what Mark does with this.
yeah,
book.
I use them as a weapon. I've learned from police officers, if you hit somebody with a bunch of phone books, it doesn't leave bruises. So thanks, police. But basically, this is what Puretide did on the mountaintop for however long he had in the remaining years of his life. And he took students upon and taught them all these different ideas and ways of living and different codes and philosophies and all that kind of stuff. And so the legacy of Puretide's teachings carried on. Puretide's greatest gift to the Tau Empire was his treatise on warfare, a comprehensive guide to advocating a balanced and flexible approach to combat. Yet his ideas were so profound and intricate that few could fully grasp them in their entirety. Most Tau commanders absorbed only fragments of his teachings, excelling in specific aspects rather than the whole. Despite this, his influence birthed a generation of prodigious students, including some of the most renowned Tau leaders. And then there's three main Tau leaders that we will be talking about in this episode too. So we have Oshova, who is Commander Farsight, a controversial figure who later led the Farsight enclaves. Oshasera, Commander Shadowsun, the master of stealth and current leader of the Force Sphere of Expansion, and Fifth too, I believe she's the leader of the Fifth. And O'Case, a fire warrior known for his lethal efficiency in combat. There were other students of Puretide, but none mastered his teaching like the three above. Recognizing the strategic value of Puretide's knowledge, the ethereal caste preserved the minds of his disciples in cryogenic stasis, ensuring their availability for future conflicts requiring their expertise. And this was another way to kind of just like, you know, you can pass on books and stuff, but eventually you need somebody to have that firsthand kind of knowledge of it from the mind itself. So they took these warriors and they froze them in stasis pods to kind of call upon in great times of need.
There were more than just those ones, right? Were there more?
Yeah, there were many.
Those are just the ones we know their names. Yeah.
Did they go to their stasis voluntarily, or were they?
That's a good question.
I would imagine so, because at this point, the greater good had been a thing. Like the greater good was discovered on the Tau, or not discovered, but like created on the Tau planet before they spread out into the galaxy. So at this point, I'm sure they were happy to do what they had to for the greater good. And
or at least we're told.
Yeah.
Told it was for the greater good.
Yeah, like these students, it's kind of interesting. They all kind of mastered a very distinct tactic that Commander Puretide came up with. There's three primary tactics. A lot of people will talk about the two, but there's really three in my mind. Then there's a couple other meta strategies that they have, but each one of these is a master of a very specific art of war.
Yeah, that's a cool theme that I never really picked up on.
We talk about it a lot later on in this episode to kind of really show how it all
Drive it.
Correlates and stuff. So
cool. All right. A beacon of Tau doctrine. Puretide remains a figure of reverence within the Tau Empire. His blend of intellectual rigor, adaptability, and unrelenting dedication to the greater good exemplifies the ideals of the Tau. From the humble warrior to the highest ranking commander, his teachings continue to inspire and guide those who follow his path. For the Tau, Puretide is not merely a historical figure, but a symbol of their unyielding pursuit of unity and progress in a galaxy ripe with conflict. Military meta-strategies. The Mont Ka, or the killing blow. This tactic is carefully planned attack designed to wipe out critical enemy defenses or units in single well-placed strikes. Once the strongest points of enemy resistance are crushed, the remainder of the force can generally be finished off more easily. Pathfinder team or Ghost Keel make the final decision to launch a Mont Ka. After the beginning of the Mont Ka, the enemy must receive massive damage or else the Tau forces will be called back. A commander will withdraw to strike from another side rather than waste lives of the warriors. Yeah. So that's obviously kind of like more of a like Horus and the the Sons of Horus,
Sure.
right? Their whole strategy to cut off the head of the snake, right? Like very key strategic targets, knock those out, let the enemy fall apart. And if you aren't successful, then don't continue with your full-on assault. Back off and find other priority targets.
Yeah.
The Kauyon, the patient hunter. This tactic is essentially an ambush where the enemy is drawn by use of a lure into a carefully prepared killing zone. The lure can literally be anything, from the allied squad to the vital object. The force of the patient hunter deployed in such a way that they can attack the enemy using all suitable advantages. True experts of this tactic may compose so many levels of plans within plans that the enemy realizes that all of his actions have been predicted and managed by the Tau only in the annihilating ending of its battle. Yes, that's cool. You're just pretty much luring them into traps, and like predicting what they're going to do based on what you've done, and you've already accounted for what they're going to do.
Yeah, this is very Art of War.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling you, man. Like, it's literally lifted.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, I know. I love it. But again, I do agree with you to some degree that you shouldn't get too crazy with imposing real world stuff on it rather than letting the flavor of it simmer inside, right? It's like the difference between hucking a raw potato at someone and letting the flavors of the potato, mix in with your stew. All right. Monat, Lone Warrior. This tactic centers on the individual soldier's ability to operate independently and strike with precision. This strategy is typically employed by the elite Tau commanders of specially trained warriors who are capable of executing high-risk, high-reward missions without relying on large-scale support. The lone warrior operates behind enemy lines or in critical locations, where their expertise and skill can cause the most disruption. By remaining unseen and striking swiftly, Monat units sow chaos and confusion, isolating targets and picking them off one by one. This tactic highlights the Tau's ability to leverage individual excellence within their broader strategy of combined arms, showcasing the efficiency of a single, well-placed strike to achieve strategic objectives.
Yeah, like this one is kind of not spoken of often, but I think this is kind of the third main tactic that they use. Oftentimes you hear of Tau, they all start together in a squad of fire warriors, and they're all not brothers literally, but like they're all family at that point. And as they slowly age and go through war, they fall off one by one. And eventually you get to crisis suits where only 3 of those original squad members are left. And eventually you get to that lone fire warrior who's the last one left in his squad. And then they become masters of this. So this is kind of that third one and how that plays out all the time in the Tau army. Like on an individual level or like a personal level for the squad, but also as a tactic where now you have these lone warriors who might be suicidal and, pack themselves with the heaviest of weapons and get close and try to do as much damage as possible before they themselves meet the same fate as their brothers and sisters.
Yeah, presumably they are veterans, of countless battles, which is how they survive to be the last man standing. So they're like hyper lethal. Now, that being said, That's kind of funny if, let's say, your squad got annihilated in the first mission you went on. It just turned out to be a bad mission. Everyone got killed except you. Are you thrown in as a lone wolf that's like still pretty green and also had a very disastrous first mission?
No, I think they would reform you up with another squad. Like, you don't just get put into a battle scene. Yeah. You still have to go through, like...
you have to earn it.
Yeah, the way Tau promotion works is every 4 years you can go through your trial of fire and try to get your promotion and stuff. So you still have to kind of get that it goes like Chassu or Chasla, then Chassu for sergeant, then Chasvir for veteran. So technically you would have to have at least 8 years of warfare, go through 2 trials of fire to get to that point.
Right.
Callus in the chat asks if crisis suits are AI or manned.
Most are manned. Now we do have examples of some being AI, but it is rare. The thing is they use AI, but for some reason they don't exclusively use it for war, and they don't want to put it into big machines, whether maybe they learned of from human history or something, or maybe it's like a safeguard, like let's not give the AI too much firepower, let's just use them in like drones and kind of almost like how the Imperium uses servitors, kind of like menial work as opposed to like the heavy lifting. It could just be a check and balance.
Yeah. Man, kind of going off script here for a second, just you mentioning drones. It's crazy how like how long ago drones on tabletop were like a common thing for the Tau, and now they're like the new battlefield tactic in real world in a war that we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy times. All right. Next tactic, or did you want to say something else, Mike?
No, I think that's kind of the three main ones. Now, at this point, we jump into three minor ones. And I would imagine there could be, you don't want to say infinite minor ones, but there could be a lot of different minor ones.
lot.
Like if you want to come up with a minor tactic that your step specifically uses, that this would be a kind of cool spot to insert that now, you know?
All right. The Rinyon, the Circle of Blades. This tactic is a strategy of envelopment designed to trap and isolate the enemy by striking from multiple directions. This tactic focuses on overwhelming opponents by attacking their flanks and rear while keeping the front occupied. That sounds like something else. Is this also a book on lovemaking, Mark?
It is. I'm glad you picked up on that. Mark's Lovemaking 404.
Doubles.
Yeah. We got Jordan's Book of Tyranny and Mark's Lovemaking 404 because you get an error code if you do it.
It's the art of war, just reframed.
Love is war.
Rinyon relies on precision and coordination, with Tau forces such as fire warriors, crisis suits, and Kroot striking from unexpected angles to force the enemy into a vulnerable position. Once fully encircled, the enemy is crushed with a decisive final blow, embodying the Tau principle of precision and coordinated strikes. The Ripika, the Thousand Daggers. This tactic is focused on culminative strikes designed to wear down and eventually break the enemy through relentless, precise attacks. This tactic emphasizes consistent, small-scale engagements that chip away at the enemy's strength over time. Tau forces, including stealth suits and other specialized units, strike repeatedly at weak points in the enemy's lines, causing confusion and erosion of morale. The tactic builds pressure, with each successive strike compounding the damage, until the enemy is overwhelmed by the sheer number of coordinated attacks. Rip Yi Ka exemplifies the Tau's focus on attrition and the precision of calculated relentless assaults. Mi Yen Kesh, the Unforeseen Blade. This tactic is a Tau battle tactic devised to exploit an enemy's lack of preparation for close quarters combat. Translating to the Unseen Blade, or Blade of the Unexpected, this strategy involves infiltrating an enemy vessel or installation, striking from within where the defenses are weakest. By deploying stealth cadres or elite breachers via advanced boarding craft or teleportation, the Tau use precision and speed to disorient and neutralize key systems and personnel before the enemy can respond. Though uncharacteristic of the Tau's preference for ranged engagements, Mi Yen Kesh demonstrates their adaptability and willingness to embrace unconventional methods when the greater good demands it. It is a tactic of calculated audacity, reserved for situations where overwhelming force alone cannot ensure victory, proving that even the Tau can wield the blade when it is least expected. I like that. I like that one kind of breaks the trope of Tau. I mean, it is a true trope that they're not the greatest at close combat, especially compared to things like Space Marines, but that they're not. They work with what they got, right? Like, they aren't built for close combat, but sometimes close combat is inevitable. Yeah. Or you face an opponent that happens to be weak to it, weaker than you, so you can exploit it.
Or you just come up with super short range Tau pulse rifle shotguns, and you're not really in close combat. You're a foot away from the guy, but you're still shooting him with your gun, so you still Tau it hard. When I did 8th edition, this was kind of...
Shotguns still count.
Still counts. I love the shotguns in 8th edition. That was my primary go-to. I'd put a bunch of breachers into devilfishes and just fly them up the board and fuck people up with shotguns. Nemo Forever says, in real life, militaries have several layers of callouts by type of fires, priority, and info. Then Purge says, painting a target, however, with how good satellite recon and GPS targeting does it. Purge, your writing is awful. It makes me sound like a retard. Normally, I'm known for my eloquent reading ability. Doesn't make it much needed anymore. Yeah, it's cool. Like, Tau have a bunch of different tactics. Like, they feel the most like real life military of all the armies in 40K. Whether it comes to, marking targets for barrages or breaching buildings, airstrikes, whatever it is. It seems like Tau are kind of the most modern military just with kind of futuristic weapons. Like in real life, we do have rail guns. They're just really energy expensive, so we don't really use them. Yeah, Nemo just said, I like the Tau because of the most like modern militaries. Never mind, you got this. Yeah. Yeah. That one comment we asked about battle suits and AI. So what we're reading about next is 2 ways that AI kind of is incorporated. This is an interesting way of AI, and maybe I'd wonder if you guys have a different idea if this counts as AI or not. But we're going to be talking about the Puretide nanochips and the legacy that they have.
So the Sword of Puretide and the Puretide engram neurochip are relics of the Tau Empire, tied to the legendary Commander Puretide, whose strategic genius shaped much of Tau's military doctrine. The Sword of Puretide, a symbol of his unyielding discipline and tactical precision, is an elegant, master-crafted weapon embodying the balance and precision of Tau martial philosophies. Meanwhile, the Puretide engram neurochip represents the culmination of Tau technological prowess, preserving fragments of Puretide's intellect after his death. Commanders who integrate the neurochip gain access to his unparalleled tactical insights, though at great risk, as the strain of melding minds can cause severe cognitive degradation over time. Together, these artifacts reflect the Tau's dedication to advancing the greater good through both tradition and innovation. Yeah, that's a really cool technological idea to like you can pass on, like it's like a way of passing on your, in the old days they did it through like oral tradition, and now you're passing on
or apprenticeship.
Yeah, something like that, and now you pass on who you are.
Yeah, and in real life, are you boys gonna get the Elon Musk neurochip or engram?
Absolutely not.
Come on, do you not want to be master of memes? Have his meme knowledge passed on from him to you?
I do not want advertising in my dreams. No.
Okay, the Sword of Puretide. The Sword of Puretide represents an early and ambitious step in Tau technological innovation, a prototype neurochip that paved the way for the famed Puretide. Did I read this already?
No, there's 2 different types of engrams, these chips that we have, so
it's just similar. Yeah. Crafted during the turbulent days of the Damocles Gulf Crusade, it was a collaborative achievement of the Earth caste, developed at the behest of the Ethereal caste. These experimental devices encapsulated the strategic brilliance of the legendary Tau commander, Puretide, making his military genius accessible to a new generation of leaders. These prototypes, known as Swords of Puretide, were surgically implanted into the minds of the cadre Fireblades and Tau commanders, empowering them to act as unified and adaptive military strategists. The innovation enabled these commanders to achieve remarkable success against standard Imperial forces, demonstrating the potential of Puretide's tactics, even in the hands of less experienced leaders. However, this technological marvel had its limitations. The implanted neurochip completely supplanted the commander's prior strategic knowledge. This design flaw became devastatingly apparent when Imperial psychers entered the battlefield. Bereft of the ability to draw upon their own instincts, many commanders struggled to adapt to the psyker threat, leading to confusion and tragic losses for the Tau. That's interesting. So, like, the thing they kind of used as their greatest weapon, if you will, became like their biggest weakness.
Yeah, it's almost like the Ultramarines following the Codex Astartes, and it's like if you hold something in such a high regard, it's hard to break free and think a different way. So then you kind of stalemate yourself out in the thought process.
Yeah, and it can become like a tradition too, right? So it's like it's almost like taboo to not use the neurochip, in battle. And sorry to appeal to history again here.
I told you it's inescapable.
Yeah. The French in World War I had actually still been using like their bright red coats at the beginning of the war.
Red pants, blue coats, and red pants.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Red pants. Yeah. And the Germans were using like army camo by that time and like modern military gear. And the French were like marching in with horses even, and they were just getting like completely destroyed by the Germans, especially early on in the war. So kind of reminds me of that, where you
They were using Napoleonic tactics in modern warfare, but it was the birth of modern warfare. So to be fair,
yeah, it's true, but like they were like not ready.
Yeah, but like you see that like what you're saying, like the difference in Napoleonic warfare is everyone's wearing bright blue and bright red and like really wanting to stand out on the battlefield. Where in modern war we go to camouflage and like really trying not to get seen, right?
And likewise, you know, the psychers introduced like a whole new wrinkle into the way you fight a battle. So, and the Tau like had to adapt to that. Yeah. Following the war, the swords of Puretide were deemed too costly in their unintended consequences. The Tau commander who had received the implants underwent invasive procedures to remove the engrams, resulting in the irreversible mental degradation of those affected. The water caste rationalized this sacrifice as a necessary cost for victory, but the aftermath left a bittersweet legacy within the empire. Among the casualties of this program, one notable exception emerged: Commander Shas Vastos, a trusted ally of Commander Farsight. Protected by Farsight, Shas Vastos was hidden away for his scheduled engram removal. Though the neurochip began to degrade rapidly, rendering his survival temporary, Shas Vastos was placed in stasis to preserve him. Decades later, the brilliant Earth-caste scientist Ovessa of the Farsight enclaves recalibrated the failing neurochip. This breakthrough allowed Shas Vastos to awaken safely, and a living testament to the resilience and ingenuity of Tau innovation. The Sword of Puretide, while imperfect, remains a symbol of the Tau's unrelenting pursuit of technological advancement and their commitment to adapting and overcoming challenges, even in the face of adversity.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that they call it like the sword, because like metaphorically too, it's almost like that ancient sword in like a lot of the legends that gets passed down to like the hero. Like instead of being a literal blade, it's the knowledge of how to conduct warfare effectively.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
It is
Yeah.
cool concept.
Yeah, Shas Vastos is a pretty cool character too. He's almost like AI piloting a battle suit, but not quite. But his mind's pretty much been degraded, but he's still there holding on with this chip. It's also cool, like, you know, a theme of towers, they are constantly expanding and upgrading their technology, and you fight them in one war, and the next one they have something that this new piece of tech that will help advance them even further. So the next thing that they came up with was the Puretide engram nanochip, which is based off the Sword of Puretide. The Puretide engram nanochip stands as one of the Tau Empire's most remarkable technological achievements, a biochip surgically implanted into the brain of a Firecast commander. Through this advanced implant, the bearer gains access to a wealth of tactical wisdom, effectively drawing upon strategic brilliance of the legendary Commander Puretide himself. This innovation allows commanders to wield a reservoir of unparalleled military acumen when it's most needed, ensuring Puretide's genius continues to shape the battlefield long after his passing. Evolving from the prototype Sword of Puretide, these neurochips emerge from the Tau's determination to preserve Puretide's unmatched brilliance after his death. Recognized as the most gifted of Tau military commanders in history, Puretide's tactical and strategic mastery had been essential to the Empire's expansion. When he succumbed to old age, his mind was scanned and his accumulated memories were encoded into a massive holographic program on his homeworld, Dileth. Oh, okay, so there's the first kind of mention of... you know, I was saying he came from Tau, but I guess he came from Dileth, which has a blue color scheme, I think. So, cool. Fragments of this data were meticulously crafted into biochips, giving rise to what would eventually be known as the Puretide engram neurochip. Reserved for the elite, The Puretide Engram neurochip is a signature support system available exclusively to battleship pilots of the rank Shasphere or higher. It represents the pinnacle of Tau ingenuity, embodying their commitment to advancing their technological and military capabilities while honoring the legacy of their greatest heroes. So yeah, this one it's a safer version, an upgraded version of the other one where it just doesn't drive you, it doesn't degrade your mind. I wonder if like the first one just gave you too much information, it just locked you into the same cycles of thinking too much, where you're not like working parts of your brain, so it just degrades the parts of your brain that you're not working with anymore. Where the other one, it's a little bit different. It allows you to still maintain a lot of your own self, but then just kind of tap into this chip when you need it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool that it shows like a technological evolution too, right? Where you see technology, especially for the Tau, that's their whole thing, is technology progressing.
Yeah. So Fuzz says, let's see where this though. Fuzz says every drone has a cunning of Puretide if you put the chip in. Yeah, like I feel like you still need that human brain to operate it, though. Like
Tau brain.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that Tau brain to kind of operate the chip and kind of
Dirty
allow
hair.
it to function properly. So I don't think you can just give like every. Like I feel like you need the wisdom still to almost discern these plans. Like, yeah, you have all these wealth and you might know what the best one is, but it might not always be the best one. And that's kind of the problem with the first version of it, is it would always choose that best version, but then that's locks you in. So I think there's still that element of you need that Tau mind to kind of decipher and discern and actually implement which plan of attack you're going to be using.
And yeah, I think it's a question of application of knowledge, right?
Yes.
Like, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it, you're not functional.
Just look at me,
right?
man. All I do is read.
The mind of a genius locked in the body of an idiot.
Yes, exactly.
Or is it the other way around?
I think it's just an idiot mind and an idiot body, but that's my personal wisdom.
Pick your combo.
Yeah. The AI is interesting because like you could get lost in AI talk of like, is AI ever really capable of making choices in and of itself, or is it just making like those programmed, coded choices? We haven't discovered that for ourselves yet, what it's capable of, but some people think one, some people think the other. Some people think you can only ever prompt AI, and without prompting it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah. And you can also see, like right now, the big debate too is whether we're hitting maximum AI capacity. And we could totally break through. Don't get me wrong, I don't know enough about it myself to say one or the other, but there are some that suspect, like, could this be peak AI, what we're experiencing? And then like, yeah, you kind of do need some kind of human interaction to clean up whatever AI spits out, right? Like,
yeah.
Well, and sorry on that topic too, like I do kind of wonder how AI would work in Tau society. Do we have any like truly AI, like general artificial intelligence in Tau? Like as like it seems like we have that in human society, like in 40K human society, but I don't know if I've ever seen that in Tau.
Maybe a good example of it would be the supreme ethereal leader on Va, where he dies and then they actually create a holographic AI version of him, of that guy, and no one knows that he died, and now it's just AI that's kind of running the Tau empire. And maybe that's a good example of it, but once again, like, it's so hard to draw those lines. It's almost like talking about souls, and what the fuck is a soul? Yet it's like such a crucial part to 40K and how you interact in the warp, but we can't even define it. We can't draw that line.
Yeah.
I think it's also cool too, as maybe one of those mysteries, because you have also the Tau like iceberg of what you're saying about Anba, is the AI and a true AI and like running the show and no one knows it? Like, has it taken over the society, or is it just a dumb machine that's replicating something that already exists, Anba's mind and mannerisms, but it's not, nothing is really there, right?
Yeah.
So they're following like equivalent of like a dead god, essentially, right? Like, kind of poetic.
There's also this there's this cool little section of a 40K book where it was in the Horus Heresies, where Loken, in one of his campaigns, they conquer like a human world, but it was like completely taken over by machines and AI. But they don't really know, like, it's kind of mysterious because they don't know if the machines killed the humans or the humans just died off and the machines like carried on their legacy. They like conquered the world. It was part of the Great Crusade, right? But it was it was interesting how the author sort of presented the AI. It didn't necessarily say that it was a bad thing. It just said like it had sort of like come to be the dominant power on this world. And yeah, so
AI in 40K, there's so many different examples of it, from the one you just mentioned, or if we go back to like the Men of Iron or the Men of Gold, there are even two different types of things. And yeah, it's almost like each one opens up a new horrific future that us humans might walk into eventually. Like, oh yeah, that planet, we don't think they killed them, but there's no more humans there. Did the AI just mine all the, or just stop making food for everyone because they didn't realize that the humans needed it, and then they just died off that way? Or like, you never know. Or were they actively hostile, like the Men of Iron that went on a galactic conquest and needed to be stopped by like all the races combined? What future will we find ourselves in? Place your bets.
And sometimes it's fun to just leave it at the question, right? And be like, one of those 40K mysteries is like, what's really going on? Well, we won't tell you. These are the all the potential options, and then, you know, have fun in the sandbox.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the students. Osha Sera, or Farsight. From a young age, the Tau warrior, who would later be known as Shova, displayed an extraordinary aptitude for the art of war. As a student in the Viorla Fire Warrior Training Academy, his dedication was unmatched. He immersed himself in every aspect of his training, mastering the Code of Fire in its entirety and excelling in the Montier Battle Dome War simulations. His sharp mind enabled him to decipher the combat codes and signals of his superiors, giving him unparalleled insight into their strategies. Though years younger than most of his peers, Sho consistently outperformed them, drawing the attention of instructors and legendary Commander Puretide, who personally attended Sho's graduation ceremony.
I just want to yell at Jordan for pulling up a sexy Tau chick. That is not Farsight, I'll have you know. That is Shadowsun.
There are pictures of Oshova.
Yep. Try again, good sir. Join our YouTube video to see Jordan's horrendous mistake.
See, Jordan put the wrong pictures.
Oh, man. Carry on, Christian.
Upon graduation, Sho's class was immediately thrust into the intense conflict of the Arakan incursion of the Western Vale. As a newly minted Shazla, Sho's tactical acumen and unwavering spirit earned him admiration from many of his teachers, while others regarded his confidence as arrogance. Determined to test him, these instructors ensured Sho was placed on the front lines of every deployment. Yet, Sho thrived under the pressure, performing admirably against the Arakan forces over the next 4 years, shaping many of the unit's successful battle plans. Are the Arakan a species, or what are they?
Yeah, let me maybe search that up exactly.
Okay, I'll keep reading. Sho's journey took a pivotal turn during his trial by fire, a defining moment for every fire warrior. Tasked with seemingly impossible live-fire war dome simulations, Sho displayed selflessness by sacrificing himself to save a teammate. Upon awakening, he learned that success in the trial came only through simulated death, earning him promotion to Shasui and the coveted opportunity to pilot a battlesuit.
Cool. Yeah, the Arachnin are an alien-like species, and they male are noted for having blade-like legs and were capable of fighting with bizarre but deadly martial arts. And they traveled through space in a cocoon-like ships. Their nest cities were designed as mazes, while made fighting through them extremely difficult. Yeah, they're a cool little species.
Fuzz in the comments says, if I recall correctly, they're sort of insectoid, having blade-like limbs like Scyther.
Fuzz is on it.
The Pokemon Scyther.
Cool.
Yeah. Assigned to a broadside battlesuit team, Sho quickly absorbed the teachings of veteran pilot Shasavir Oblotai in the final stages of the Iraqian War. Sho transitioned to a crisis battlesuit, fighting under Commander Dawnstone in a decisive, brutal engagement. Although gravely injured, losing much of his left leg, Sho's leadership in eliminating the Iraqian Trinity, the ruling council of the Iraqian, secured a critical victory for the Tau. This act shattered the Iraqian hold on the Western Veil and brought the war to a victorious conclusion. I'd like to see some models for those Iraqian.
Yeah, with 3D printing, I bet they're out there, man.
Anything's possible nowadays.
We need to get the horny stick and beat some of the people in the chat down a little bit. They're getting a little too worked up by the sexy Tau and their death by snoo there.
What is that book? Man, I feel so dumb.
Don't feel dumb.
That ancient text, all the different positions. But
the Karma Sutra.
Yeah, that's what you got to write, the Kama Sutra. But
I don't envy your wife. You know, you've read The Art of War, but you haven't read the Karma Sutra. So
the 40K version.
All business.
I told you it's interchangeable. You use The Art of War in the bedroom. Just replace a couple of words.
Tau Mantra Sutra.
The Manta Sutra.
That's funny.
However, Sho's greatest test came during the boarding operation of the Iraqian Cocoon ship, where he heroically sacrificed himself to protect Commander Dawnstone from the onslaught of Iraqian skitterlings. To his astonishment, Sho awoke in a medbay to discover the entire operation had been another simulation, a final trial by fire. His exceptional performance earned him the honor of becoming a disciple of Commander Puretide, training alongside other future luminaries such as Kais and Shasera. That is funny that they made him stage a whole exercise that he thought was real. He died.
Yeah, it's interesting that they have like that kind of technology and like how much better of a warrior you could get by doing that kind of stuff. And maybe that's just another way that they don't necessarily need to put AI into things, because you could have somebody live out 100 years of combat experience and then have that Tau input as well, and doesn't take away any time.
Yeah, like it feels like it's like flash learning, or like the Matrix almost, when they pump information, but like they can pump experience into your brain.
Yeah.
Right. Sho's time under Puretide's tutelage on Dalith was marked by relentless challenges, including enduring the harsh conditions of Mount Kanji. Despite these trials, Sho mastered every nuance of the Tau art of war. His commitment extended beyond combat. He closely followed Earthcast presentations on military technology, even risking the Vashya designation, a dangerous mindset discouraged by the Ethereals. Through his perseverance, Sho rose as one of the most brilliant Tau warriors of his generation, embodying the very essence of the greater good. I guess his whole like self-sacrifice thing keeps proving to the Tau that like he would be even willing to give his life for the greater good.
Sure.
So that's a very, very on brand.
So in terms of his command career, Farsight's earliest and most legendary triumphs were forged during the Arkunasha War, where his exceptional strategic brilliance cemented his legacy. Faced with the overwhelming onslaught of the Wa, Doc, led by war boss Toofjaw, Farsight orchestrated a masterful defense of the Tau colony, utilizing the intricate network of canyons and gullies that crisscrossed the desert. He transformed the terrain into a weapon, luring the Orc forces into fruitless pursuits and isolating their elements for destruction. His foresight and tactical precision in these battles earned him the now iconic title of Farsight, a reflection of his unparalleled vision on the battlefield. Farsight's encounters with the Orc warbands instilled in him a unique belief within the Firecast, the importance of close combat in warfare. This perspective sets him apart from many of his peers and aligns him with the mastery of Mont Ka, the aggressive doctrine central to Tau military strategy. Farsight's skills were called upon once more during the Damocles Crusade, when the Imperium of Man launched a large-scale incursion into Tau space. His leadership proved to be a critical source of morale for the Firecast. In the heat of battle, Farsight narrowly survived an encounter with formidable assault marines Cato Sicarius and Joris Numitor, vowing vengeance for the encounter. Following the Imperium's withdrawal, Farsight commanded a reclamation fleet tasked with retaking lost Tau worlds. He eradicated lingering Imperial forces, including deserters and abandoned guardsmen, before continuing his explorations into the uncharted expanses beyond Tau territory. Beyond the Crusade, Farsight faced one of his oldest adversaries, the Scar Lord Space Marines, led by acting chapter master Kalos. In a desperate assault, the Scar Lords managed to reach the Tau world of Viorlos, but Farsight's tactical genius prevailed. The Space Marines suffered catastrophic losses, with 90% of the chapter annihilated in their failed invasion, a testament to Farsight's unmatched prowess as commander. Through his early victories, Farsight emerged as a beacon of Tau ingenuity and resilience, defining the Mont Ka and the greater good with boldness and clarity. So this actually brings up the question, like a Tau commander, let's say, be a Astartes Space Marine. Like, what is the are they like similar in size? I don't even have like a reference point.
Yeah, so Tau commanders, they're rocking a type of battle suit. And these battle suits stand like probably 10 to 11 feet tall. Where in Astartes is, and it's thick armor. Sometimes it's iridium armor, some fancy made up metal. But they would be comparable warriors for sure, especially depending on the war gear. I think I would give it to whatever the war gear of the people have. So, if Tau commander only has a flamethrower and a burst cannon, which is like a rapid fire gun that's made for mowing down infantry, as opposed to a plasma gun and a fusion blaster, you could get some very different outcomes of that battle. But they're equivalent. Like,
it makes them comparable for sure.
Like, people often ask all the time, why don't Tau make their own super soldiers and stuff? And there's a number of reasons. One is because they can pump out battle suits and then put people in battle suits, so they don't have to spend all the time training a super soldier. And then you stack on like the different engrams and all that, like all the chips and stuff to kind of give them that extra edge up. So yeah, they're comparable for sure.
Yeah. Buzz in the comments says the kind of suit Farsight was in would be taller than an Astartes. Yeah. Aren't Astartes like 8 to 9 feet tall? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, they range between 7 and 9 feet, and then battle suits can range anything. Like, depends, right? Like, you have the super massive battle suits, like the Ghost Keel, which is like probably 15, 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then like everything in between. And Shadowsun, she has a bit of a smaller like stealth suit, right? That's maybe, I don't know, gauging from the model, maybe 8 feet tall.
Yeah, like that's more like power armor as opposed to like a battle suit, like where battle suit you sit inside of, as opposed to like you're wearing a battle suit. It's more you pilot it as opposed to.
They still classify it as a battle suit, I believe. But
yeah,
right. Like you said, it's more like clad on your body rather than you're piloting a mech.
Yeah. So Farsight, he's the master of Monta, and I would imagine too one of the reasons why is the people that he's been fighting. They're very aggressive, so he has to be extra aggressive to get past them. He made his name fighting orcs, and then he fought a bunch of different space marines who are also super aggressive and known for doing their like surgical precision strikes and taking out the high priority targets and stuff. So I'd imagine just learning not only from Puretide, but then also seeing and trying to counter the way the enemies that he's been facing. It really amped up his Monta tactical abilities. Then we jump. So that was kind of Farsight's military career. Then we jump into the Farsight expedition, and we're not going to touch on that this episode because we actually touched on it in episode 75, and we did a whole Farsight expedition. And at this point, this is kind of Farsight's divergence from the Tau Empire. So we're kind of leave it here for him for now. But we will talk about his war gear before we carry on. And the first thing he has is the Dawnblade. And he didn't actually get this until the Farsight expedition. So what we've learned about him from now, he did not have this piece of war gear. But I'll tell you about it anyways. The Dawnblade. Description: a unique and mysterious alien sword. It is an ancient artifact of unknown origin, discovered by Farsight during his campaigns against orcs on the planet of Arthas Moloch. Abilities: the Dawnblade is a close combat weapon, an unusual choice for Tau commanders who typically avoid melee engagements. It grants Farsight incredible strength in combat, allowing him to cleave through even heavy armored foes like Space Marines or orcs with ease. Its origins and effects suggest a possible connection to Necron or other Xenos species. We did an episode on him a couple episodes ago, the Imperial Relics Chaos stuff, and I forget what I call it, Xenos Curiosities. And we talked about the Dawnblade in there and the two possible origins of it, and we kind of thought it was either Necron tech or Eldar tech. And depending on what version of edition of the model you're looking at, the newer one looks like it's a very Eldar looking or Necron looking blade, where the older one looked more like a Eldar blade. So who knows exactly where this thing came from, but it's a very unique weapon. The big thing too that it does is it will actually, when you kill somebody, it'll suck their life force out and take it as yours and like add on to yours. But
small detail.
But like we said, he has not acquired this yet, so definitely go listen to the Farsight Expedition episode 75 and that other Relic episode, because we dive a lot more into that and we take some time on it. But as of right now, it doesn't matter for him. The other unique piece of war gear he has is an XV-86 Cold Star battlesuit. While Farsight's battlesuit is sometimes referred to as an XV-8 Crisis battlesuit, his armor is heavily customized version tailored to his unique combat style. Features: enhanced mobility and durability, equipped with a jetpack for unparalleled agility on the battlefield, and integrated systems to support both ranged and melee combat. He has a plasma rifle, a high-powered range weapon standard to the Tau Firecast, optimized for anti-heavy infantry and light vehicles. Oh yeah, those are fusion blasters we have pulled up, but battlesuits are fucking tight, man. No, I love it, man. I love it.
Jordan, get
No, that's what it's. I'm on the page that says battlesuit, Crisis battlesuit.
but they're different kinds.
It's fine. We take it this way, that Jordan isn't a filthy weeb, that he doesn't know the difference between battlesuits. So it's actually a compliment that you keep pulling up the not right stuff. Close enough, though.
Here, hold on.
Oh, yes. Now we're talking. Look at that Cold Star.
Is that
It's not
better?
great, but
I can't see what his other gun is.
he also has a shield generator. Oh, Jordan, we love you. These pictures are cool. Let's just look at them and compliment Jordan's beard and glasses and hair. He has a shield generator, a defensive device mounted on his battlesuit, and it generates a protective energy field that enhances Farsight's survivability against enemy fire. He also has advanced targeting and command systems for advanced command and control systems, and this allows him to coordinate with allied forces and execute precise battlefield maneuvers. It also provides superior accuracy and situational awareness. And his final piece of war gear is the bonding knife ritual. He just has like a little emblem painted on from the Taslara ritual. While not technically war gear, Farsight carries a ceremonial bonding knife representing the unity and loyalty of the Tau warriors under his command. It reflects his respect for the traditions of the Tau Firecast. So that's his war gear. The one question I wonder is, it talks about him being very aggressive, even in his early engagements with the orcs, and being kind of melee focused. And I wonder if he carried another type of melee weapon at that time. There are a couple examples, like I wish I could say it right, but I think it's called like the Omegron Gauntlet, which is basically like a Tau power fist that can just smash stuff. And maybe he used one of those, or maybe he had some type of other metal baton or some type of melee stick. What are your thoughts?
Fusion blade?
Fusion blade?
Would you consider that?
Yeah, I would consider that for sure. Like, I just imagine like they just describe him getting close and up close, but maybe he's just literally punching and grappling orcs in a battle suit, because those battle suits, I would imagine, could still grab an orc and rip it in half. Or if you still punch an orc in the face with the battle suit, it's still going to smash that.
You're still going to do
exactly. So maybe he was just doing that kind of stuff.
When all else fails, you still have your fists.
Yeah, cool character for sure.
And a giant mech. Not to jump ahead, Mark, but do you want to mention his ultimate fate, or leave that for...
Yeah, no, leave that for... Go check out episode 75, where we spend a couple hours talking about what happens to him outside of the Tau Empire.
All right, next up, Oshova, or Shadowsun, who is currently, right, she's kind of like the poster girl for Tau commanders. So I know she was for a while. I don't know if she currently still is.
Oh yeah, she's the poster girl for sure. On all these nerds in our chat rooms jerk off wall.
Literally a poster.
Yep, literally. Yep.
All right, Shadowsun. The young Oshosera spent her formative years on the Tau-sept world of Dalith, training under the legendary Commander Puretide alongside fellow pupils Sho and Kais. Together they endured the grueling conditions of Mount Kanji, where all three successfully proved their resilience and earned their place as Puretide's full students. Oshosera later became a prominent subordinate of Sho, who would go on to earn fame as Commander Farsight. So she's like a double student, a student of Puretide and a student of Farsight. Years later, during the Damocles Crusade and Kresh expansion, Oshosera was chosen to succeed the now renegade Farsight. It was during the Great War of Confederation on Kresh that she earned the famed title Shadowsun, after using an eclipse to ambush and obliterate massive orc hordes. Recognizing her strategic brilliance as a disciple of Puretide, Aun-Va placed her in a cryogenic stasis alongside other students to preserve their expertise for future Tau expansions. Upon her reawakening, Shadowsun played a pivotal role in the Tau victory over the orcs, solidifying her reputation as a master of the Kauyon, the patient and calculated hunting strategy of the Firecaste. Upon learning of Farsight's betrayal, Shadowsun dramatically destroyed the last statue of him in the Montier training dome, vowing to uphold the greater good with pride and honor. Her leadership continued to shine in conflicts such as the raids against Tyranid splinter fleets, where her strategies crippled hive ships, enabling the Tau fleet to engage them without suffering any losses. That's crazy. Whole Tyranid fleets without even getting any losses.
Yeah, isn't that just kind of wild? But it kind of shows how good Kauyon can be if you're the master of it, where you can just lure and bait people into your zones of fire and eliminate them without any issue at all. But it takes a brilliant mind to kind of lure people to those spots.
And the cool thing too about that is that the Tyranids can't even adapt because they're destroyed. Like it's almost like when you kill germs, right? Like you have to be 99.99% effective, because even if 1% of germs doesn't get exterminated, it will adapt and be immune.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool thought.
And the Tyranids are the same way.
Yeah, cool.
Aiden in the chat says Tau have gotten lucky. Anytime the Imperium got close to them, they either got blocked by warp or some other threat pops up to drag the Imperium down.
Yeah, we kind of talked a lot about that during the Severin Dominate, and like, how does this renegade empire survive? And it's just like, well, the Imperium has 1,000 other things to deal with that they're like, whatever, we'll get back to these guys eventually. And the Tau Empire have this same kind of fate, where it's just like, yeah, they're not really a threat to us. We could take all our forces right now and wipe them out, but also we have 1,000 other things we need to take care of first. Purge says Shadowsun is a master baiter.
You were right. He's definitely got a poster in
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. I've never seen the chat so worked up. Tau does something to these nerds. We've never experienced this kind of chat room before. Holy shit.
This should have been the OnlyFans episode.
Yeah, goodness gracious.
All right. Under Shadowsun's guidance, the Tau Empire expanded rapidly during the Third Sphere of Expansion, establishing colonies in the Damocles Gulf, Perdu's Rift, and beyond. Her most celebrated triumph came during the Battle of Mugalath Bay, a decisive victory against the Imperium. However, this campaign also marked her encounter with Corsaro Khan of the White Scars. The fierce combat inflicted heavy casualties on Shadowsun's command staff, and her overconfidence led to a devastating Tau defeat. Only the sacrifice of her personal retinue allowed her to escape the ambush, leaving her determined to intensify her efforts in the Third Sphere. This resolve culminated in the Perfectia campaign, another triumph, though the Imperium used the distraction to launch a second assault on Mugalath Bay. Despite her resistance, the world fell, and Aunva perished at the hands of the Officio Assassinorium. Shadowsun herself survived thanks to injuries inflicted earlier by a Caladus assassin, which forced her to recover aboard a Tau starship. Free from Aunva's oversight and grateful for Farsight's assistance during the battle, she covertly leaked information to him about the Ethereal Council's orders for his capture. Interesting. So her former mentor saved her, and she leaked information to him.
Yeah, like you have to listen to episode 75, but maybe we'll just give that teaser. Like, while Farsight turned his back on the Tau Empire and left it, he's not an active enemy of it. He still is fighting for what he thinks is best for Tau as a whole and best for his people and stuff. And it's not like he's actively against the Tau Empire.
Maybe some of their ideals or their leaders, let's say.
Yeah, like mostly just, yeah, exactly, they're leaders. He does not like the Ethereals, but listen to episode 75.
Later, Shadowsun was reawakened to lead the fifth sphere of expansion through the Startide Nexus. Her leadership was tested by the fourth sphere Tau, whose excessive brutality and xenophobia clashed with her ideals. With support from the Ethereal Council, she disciplined their commanders, particularly Shearstrike. During the campaign, Shadowsun defended the Startide Nexus against the Death Guard, all while seeking Startide Nexus, all while seeking answers about the mysterious warp entity encountered by the fourth sphere. Her investigations led to her brief removal from the command, but she ultimately regained her position after a bold mission aboard a Death Guard battleship, Nephilim. In a miraculous turn, Shadowsun was seemingly saved from the void of space by the very warp entity she sought to understand.
I don't think we've done a fifth sphere of expansion, and that one is very interesting because they have the whole warp Tau entity that is happening and some of the shenanigans that revolves around that. And maybe that's something I need to kind of put on my list of something next to do to kind of dissect. And what the fuck is a Tau warp god look like? How is that even possible?
It's a demon. It's changed.
Spoilers! Now I can't do the episode, Christian.
No, yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting episode. It's funny, we have the episode you should go back and check out, and then now we're going to say check out this future episode whenever it comes up.
And it's cool. This kind of is an interesting turn of events too for Tau in many ways. The fourth sphere, where it's led by Shadowsun, and then the fifth comes out and they're super xenophobic and super brutal, and then all of a sudden they create this warp god, and there's a lot of things that are just, the Tau have been known for being the greater good, can include minor Xenos in all these races. Like, the crew can be a part of it, although they're second class citizens, but like this takes it to another level where they're like actively like, how do we bait this trap? I don't know, just put all the crew there intentionally, and if they survive it, who cares? Where normally it's like, let's put them as the trap, but we don't want them dead. Like, spring the trap, crew, fall back, and don't waste your lives. But it takes a very different grimdark turn.
Aiden Bench in the chat says Tau Warp God is actually just Slaneshi demon made from all the Tau horniness from humans. Could be. Judging by what I've seen so far.
God.
Definitely.
Yeah. Very disturbed. I've talked to a lot of these people for some of them many years, and now I've come to find a dark fetish that a lot of them have in this episode. Here's a list of names of people to avoid on the Discord. Let's get affected by their horniness.
With her position restored, Shadowsun directed campaigns in the Chalnath Expanse and Astorgius, solidifying Tau control in these regions. Now she faces her latest challenge, organizing the defense of the Fifth Sphere against a massive orc horde threatening the Chalnath Expanse and Nimyar Atoll. I like how they use like real-world geography for space. They have like an atoll.
Yeah.
Through her unwavering
archipelago.
Yeah. Through her, see, they are space fish. It comes full
You
circle.
son of a bitch.
Through her unwavering resolve and mastery of strategy, Shadowsun continues to lead the Tau Empire's expansion, embodying the ideals of the greater good.
So the war gear starts with the XV-22 stealth battlesuit. It is a cutting-edge battlesuit designed for mobility, stealth, and advanced tactical capabilities. It is smaller and more agile than standard crisis battlesuits, allowing Shadowsun to excel in infiltration and hit-and-run tactics. Some of the features, it has a stealth field generator, projects a cloaking field that makes Shadowsun virtually invisible to enemy sensors and sight. Has a jetpack. It provides enhanced mobility for rapid repositioning and retreat. An advanced sensor suit includes advanced targeting systems, communication arrays, and battlefield scanners to aid in precise strikes and coordination with allies.
I definitely like the stealth suits and stuff. Lots of people paint them in such cool ways of like digital camo and stuff, and how it actually actively transitions and stuff. Paints them on the tabletop. Very cool. But yeah, just these like invisible. I always pictured Dawn of War and playing them in that game and just having them pop out and just slay a bunch of orcs and then go back into stealth mode, hide on an objective. Very fun.
Yeah, that's always a question too with cloaking. Is it like a chameleon effect where you blend in with the environment, or is it a see-through effect where you become invisible?
Yeah, this one it takes like a bunch of different it's like the first one, almost like the chameleon, where it kind of reflects a bunch of different lights on it and like kind of builds the shape around it. I'm sure it uses some type of like AI projection as well, where it's like, what's behind me? Let's flash that on the front of me and all that kind of stuff.
Twin fusion blasters. The two high-powered weapons designed for destroying heavily armored targets, like vehicles or heavy infantry. Abilities. Fires concentrated blasts of energy capable of melting through the toughest armor. Extremely effective against heavily armored foes like tanks, dreadnoughts, and elite space marines. The command and control node. Integrated into her battlesuit, this system enhances Shadowsun's ability to command and coordinate her forces on the battlefield. Abilities. Boosts the efficiency and effectiveness of nearby Tau units. Enhances communication and ensures precise execution of her strategic plans. Advanced drone systems. Shadowsun is accompanied by specialized drones to support her. The MV-52 Command Link drone enhances the performance of allied units by increasing their accuracy and efficiency. The MV-62 Shield drone projects a protective energy shield around Shadowsun, increasing her survivability against enemy attacks. Advanced targeting systems. Description: a suit of tools integrated into her battlesuit to enhance her precision. Some of the abilities: it improves her accuracy and ranged weaponry, allows Shadowsun to pinpoint and exploit enemy weaknesses. Photo grenades. They are non-lethal explosive devices used to blind and disorient enemies. Almost like a flashbang.
Yes.
Flashbang.
But with photons, Jordan.
Yeah. Super advanced and future sounding. Abilities. It creates a dazzling flash of light to impair enemy vision and coordination. Provides a tactical advantage in close quarter engagements or retreats. So I do like how she uses like drones. I think that's like a thing that's not utilized enough in the 40k universe. Is like seems like an obvious war tactic or battle tactic would be to use drones of some kind, and this one like actually in like fully utilizes that as part of its abilities.
Yeah, like I know like what you're saying. Like it's funny the context of when this faction came out back in like 2005, I think, and like how far away we were from drones, and even the concept of like these small little drones with the 4 propellers on each corner, and you strap it with some C4. Like that was not a thing back when these guys were around, and they had like these huge like 2-foot big discs and had to have a hover module underneath it. Where yeah, you're right. Like they should be using a lot more drones and a lot more kind of. Just imagine, like I just see what drones are capable of. Just millions of them flying across the battlefield. Like you could blow up a whole city with just drones, man. What do you do?
Yep.
I'll write GW another hate mail that they can deal with as they please.
They have a full-time customer support service person dedicated to emails
Yeah.
from Mark.
Yeah, their own James complaints. Yeah.
Fuzz in the comments says, I wonder if even basic drones would be seen as some sort of holy machine spirit to the Imperium / Mechanicus, and therefore they wouldn't use them like the Tau. Okay. Yeah, that's some interesting maybe plot armor to say why they wouldn't use drones.
There is an argument that like pretty much servitors and like the battlefield versions of them are drones, right? Like pretty much their mind wipe, they're slaved to like a centralized thinking system. Effectively, they are the same. They're not capable of like hovering around, but functionally they serve the same purpose, just like autonomous fighting or other task.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word robots, but yeah, robots. Like,
yeah. One thing Tau drones do have going for them too is if you put a bunch of them together, they can start to link their processing units or whatever, which is almost similar to how real AI works with graphics card. And you just link a shit ton of graphics cards up together, and they can then function a lot better. So Tau drones have that same kind of principle where they link up with each other and can become more complex and operate at more complicated maneuvers, more battlefield tactics become available to them and all that kind of stuff.
Nemo Forever in the chat there says, depends on the tech priest and their base of training. Some tech priests are more liberal, others are more conservative based on the tolerance of tech, not from Mars. So
yeah. Cool. So that's Shadowsun. Is everyone done beating their meat? Can we carry on, boys in the chat? Got to make sure. Do we need to jump back before we carry on to O'Case? Okay, we're getting thumbs up. We'll carry on. O'Case, who means skilled in Tau. In 740 M41, Shasso Case was dispatched alongside the Firecast and Tau auxiliary forces, including the Vespid and the Kroot, to bring order to the embattled world of Kronos. Accompanied by ethereal Un-El Shi Oris, O'Case was tasked with securing and holding the planet's capital city amidst the chaotic war involving the Imperial Guard, the Bloodravens, Space Marine chapter, the Eldar, and the Necrons. Known for the balance of strength and mercy, O'Case often extended multiple opportunities to force his foes to surrender. Those who refused to serve the greater good, however, faced total annihilation. Despite his tactical brilliance, the Bloodravens ultimately drove the Tau forces from Kronos during the campaign. Following the Damocles Gulf Crusade, Shasso Case was placed into cryogenic stasis, preserved for future conflicts. Though the exact amount of time between his reawakening remains unrecorded, he was later revived to lead the conquest of what would become the Phyros step in 103999 M41. After securing a critical victory, he was returned to stasis once more. During the fourth sphere of expansion, O'Case joined the Tau fleet, but remained in stasis under unusual conditions. His chamber had been modified to maintain his consciousness, allowing him to devise an immense library of tactics and strategies against nearly every foe the Tau had encountered. This period enforced mental activity sharpened his already formidable mind, ensuring his preparedness for future campaigns.
I just want to say, sorry, that is horrific to be like completely bodily frozen, but your mind is left active. And like obviously he's disciplined enough, like he has a purpose. He's just going to run through a bunch of tactics, but like that's pretty much locked in syndrome right there.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like frozen with his mind allowed to wander.
I don't like that. In 243 M42, O'Case was deployed on a mission to Duskinwald, where he utilized an XV-95 Ghost Kill battlesuit to assault the Angels of Absolution facility housing several Psychers. The operation was successful, with Case eliminating his targets and numerous Astartes. However, his battlesuit was disabled by an orbital bombardment, forcing him to retreat. The data recovered from the battle would later form the foundation for new training for new cadre of elite Tau warriors inspired by his skills. Later, in M42, O'Case reemerged as the key leader in the fight against Chaos during the Keelik Plague War, commanding Tau forces with the tactical ingenuity and resolve that had become his hallmark. His enduring legacy as a commander exemplified the precision and adaptability of the Firecast in service of the greater good. And honorable mention, I think, with this guy. Did either of you ever play the really old game called Fire Warrior?
I was thinking of the same thing. I don't know for sure that that's the same guy. I think they just have the same name.
Yeah, and this is why I'm saying honorable mention. But I like to think with the way this guy kind of operates, where he gets put into stasis a couple times, and like, maybe this was the start of his kind of career, this Fire Warrior game. Like you said, though, that's not canon. It's just a similar name. How many Tau Fire Warriors are named Skilled? Probably quite a few, I'd imagine.
Depends if you think they're skilled.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think they're all trash.
Fucking trash, Xenos. Get out of here, trash Xenos. Yeah, I like to think that it is the same guy, though, for sure. That he just kind of carried on and just keeps kicking ass.
Like your headcanon.
Yeah, and there's a reason for this. Like, I don't want to spoil it too much, but like we kind of talked about how each one of these commanders specialized in a specific type of war. And Case really specializes in the lone warrior type of warfare, which kind of ties into him going berserk on a planet and
the story of the game. Yeah.
So
essentially the corn berserker of the town.
Yeah.
Man, that art though, I have so many flashbacks, like just him, that iconic piece where he's like squatting on that pile of skulls is just peak 40K.
Yeah. Somebody had to gather all those skulls and put them in a pile like that.
He did it. Those are all his skills.
Excellent. I like it.
All right. Let's get into his war gear. The XV-8 Crisis Battlesuit. A versatile and modular battlesuit designed for frontline combat. O'Case's XV-8 is customized to enhance his personal combat style and effectiveness.
Sorry, I just remembered one more tie into that kind of why I like to think O'Case is that guy. So we mentioned he fought his kind of big first campaign was on the world of Kronos, and this was set in the Dawn of War. Yeah, I forget which one it was. It must have been 3, but Dawn of War 1 must have been 1. Yeah, it was definitely 1.
I think it was an expansion to 1.
Yeah.
No, was it?
Yeah, no, it definitely was the expansion, because number 2 was like the squad based, and number 3 I never even played. So it must have been the number 1, but an expansion of it. But those were never really considered canon. Yet here it is tied in as canon and stuff. And from what I could find, it eventually did make it into canon. So maybe video games are canon, and he has the power to turn non-canon into canon.
That's his secret special ability.
Yeah.
But I will also argue that the game Fire Warrior does a lot of things that are, let's say, controversial, which is probably why it was. It's not that it was a video game that's uncanon, but the controversial things make it questionably canon.
And GW's never written anything that's not controversial. So by that logic,
that's true. Yeah, like how many books would have to be non-canon because they got many specific facts wrong?
I'm looking at you, Primaris Marines. Yeah. Carry on.
Some features of his battlesuit include his jetpack, which grants mobility across the battlefield, allowing for dynamic repositioning and aerial maneuvers. Advanced sensors that improve target acquisition and battlefield awareness. Durable plating that provides enhanced protection while maintaining agility. His plasma rifle is a high-powered energy weapon, ideal for dealing with heavy infantry and elite targets. It should be noted, too, that Tau are advanced technologically, that they have stabilized plasma technology, let's say. So when Tau are using plasma, it's not the same as the Imperium using plasma. Although now it seems that the Imperium has gotten their grip on plasma, too. That's not as dangerous or unstable as it used to be. I think.
More like not as fun.
Yeah, that was definitely a cool feature of plasma guns that they could blow up in your face. But yeah, with the new changes, obviously the Imperium has improved their ability to manage plasma, but it's still relatively unstable relative to how Tau can use it.
Yeah.
Without risks. Some of his abilities include firing searing hot bolts of plasma capable of bypassing the toughest armor. It's obviously effective against Space Marines and other heavily armored foes. Additionally, he has a missile pod, which is a shoulder-mounted weapon system designed for mid to long-range engagements. It launches high explosive missiles effective against both infantry and light vehicles. Provides versatility in combat at range and enemy threats. Did on the tabletop, can you shoot frag, the equivalent of frag and crack missiles from their missile pods?
No, they just had one type in every edition that I played, and it would have been closer to a crack missile. Yeah, but it wasn't quite a crack, but it was definitely closer to a crack.
It's a little weaker than a crack.
Yeah.
His burst cannon is a rapid-fire, high rate of fire weapon mounted on the battlesuit, effective at mowing down light infantry. It fires a barrage of high-velocity rounds, ideal for suppressing large swaths of enemy troops, perfect for engaging lighter infantry swarms and unarmored targets. Pretty much looks like a rotary cannon. I wish they had an infantry version of it. They look so cool on the battlesuits.
Ooh, yeah.
And I know the stealth suits carry them as their standard weapon. But it'd be cool to just see, like, if you've ever seen clone troopers with the rotary blasters.
Yeah, fuck yes.
Picture that, but like a Tau warrior using one of those things.
Yeah. Do you know why they don't use them though?
Tell me.
It has to do with
Carrying ammunition.
the art of war and how Tau like to really specialize purpose of units and stuff, where they like their fire warriors to have like this unit has a very specific purpose. So if they toss in these special weapons like flamers or burst cannons or anything like that, it kind of for some way just kind of takes away that
from their but now that man, see, that's okay. I don't want to go into a Primaris rant here, but right, like that's kind of what takes away the charm of tactical Marines is like if everyone does that and has the same base weapon like Primaris do now, what the heck?
Yeah, well, you know, no one's ever said anything nice about Primaris Marines on this podcast, so.
All right, moving on. Fusion Blaster. A powerful short-range energy weapon capable of destroying heavy armor and vehicles, think equivalent to Melta weapons. It fires concentrated beams of superheated energy capable of melting through even the toughest armor, making it devastating against tanks and heavily armored targets. Provides Okais with the ability to handle armored or heavily fortified enemies in close-range combat.
But Christian, they might say, that's a lot of weapons on one battlesuit. Well, he is known for customizing his suits and like taking what he needs for the job. Being the master of the lone warrior, he really kind of will take what he needs for that job. So he doesn't actually run around with all four of these weapons. He'll choose what he needs. If he's fighting Space Marines, he's taking fusion blasters and plasma guns.
Or if you play Fire Warrior the game, somehow he stuffs them all into a backpack and can cycle through all these weapons.
Isn't that all games though?
Not since the early 2000s first-person shooter revolution, where you can get limited to 2 to 3 weapons.
Yeah, now it seems like you have your D-pad where it's like you got weapon option up, down, left, and right.
Left to right.
Yeah, you got a grenades, sidearms, and a main rifle or something. But
okay, you are correct for FPSs, but for RPGs, I think it's still
it's still true. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. And don't even get me started on Minecraft. Where is he stuffing all those bricks? 64 dirt? I don't think so.
All right. Advanced targeting system. Description enhances Okais' precision and effectiveness in combat. Its abilities improves its accuracy with all equipped weaponry, allows them to identify and exploit weaknesses in enemy formations. Shield generator. A compact energy shield device integrated into his battlesuit. Generates a protective energy shield that deflects incoming attacks, significantly increases survivability in prolonged engagements. Stimulant injector. A system that administers combat stimulants to enhance physical performance and endurance, allows Okais to continue fighting even when heavily injured. It boosts resilience and reaction time during critical moments. It's just like monster energy drinks like injected right into his bloodstream. Perfect.
Or what the chat's trying to get Jordan to do and just drink a bunch of whiskey and rum, which I think you should, Jordan. We're looking at that shelf behind you. I think, we got 30 minutes left in the show. Let's see how drunk you can get.
Drink all of it.
In a way, alcohol is a combat stim because it makes you more durable and makes you more aggressive, at least in Jordan's case.
Makes Christian more turned on.
All right. Drones. Okais is often supported by specialized drones to augment his capabilities. His gun drone provides additional firepower to suppress and harass enemies, and his shield drone enhances his defenses by projecting a supplementary shield. This guy's got shields for days. Tau Tactical Systems. A command link node improves the coordination and performance of nearby allied units, and battlefield scanners allows for real-time analysis of enemy movements and strategies.
Yeah. So that's kind of his war gear and stuff. But yeah, like I said, the unique thing about him is he'll take whatever. He's not attached to anything. He'll even hop out of this battle suit that he's kind of familiar with and go hop inside a ghost keel and pilot that thing. So he's very much kind of the one-man do-everything, jack-of-all-trades type guy.
Let's get into the students' aspects. Each commander's tactic reflects their unique strengths and personalities, with Farsight's aggressive Montka emphasizing a relentless, no-holds-barred approach, Shadowsun's Kauyon focusing on patience and precision, and Kais's Monat underscoring personal resilience and adaptability. These strategies, while distinct, all contribute to the ongoing success and expansion of the Tau Empire, each commander bringing their own flavor to the great whole of the Tau military machine.
Yeah, I really like this, that they break them down into, Puretide was such a military genius that none of his students could master all the different ways of warfare, but he did have these ones that mastered a very specific aspect of his warfare. We can each read one since there's three of us and three commanders. I'll read Farsight or Shas Farsight and the Montka. Shasso Farsight is a master of the Montka, a tactic of the killing blow, characterized by decisive, overwhelming force and rapid, deadly strikes. Under Farsight's command, the Tau forces are relentless in their aggression, striking with speed and precision to eliminate enemies before they can regroup or retaliate. This tactic is all about exploiting enemy weaknesses and delivering a fatal strike when the enemy is at their most vulnerable. Farsight's approach often involves heavy use of his crisis battlesuit and specialized war gear, such as fusion blasters or plasma guns, whatever, to close in on high-priority targets and decimate them with surgical precision. He favors aggressive and swift offensives, preferring to engage in a direct head-on assault that crushes the enemy's resolve with superior firepower and relentless pursuit. The success of the Montka is not just the execution of strikes, but in Farsight's ability to identify the perfect moment to unleash them, turning every engagement to a potential killing blow that forces the enemy into submission or destruction. It's cool when you read these and how you can implement them onto tabletop, and what you're kind of up to and how that really incorporates into the model itself and how that model is tending to play. This guy, you're not just having on the backfield shooting his one plasma gun shot. You want him up close doing some deadly damage.
I just keep getting Horus vibes. The way Horus and the Luna Wolves, that very strategic priority targets.
Yeah.
Hit them where it hurts.
And if we're carrying that kind of note on, then maybe think about Imperial Fists or possibly even Iron Warriors when we're reading the Kauyon. Maybe I'll let you decide that, though, after we read it.
Actually, hold on, one more Horus thing. Farsight and Horus also betray their main team. Okay.
Oh, then they both have it. They both have a demon weapon as well. God damn.
Parallels are everywhere. All right. Shadowsun and the Kauyon, the patient hunter. In contrast, Shadowsun is a practitioner of Kauyon, the patient hunter, a strategy that focuses on careful planning, deception, and waiting for the right opportunity to strike. Shadowsun's approach is much more calculated, often involving the use of stealth, misdirection, and attrition to wear down her enemies before delivering a decisive blow. She makes excellent use of her XV-22 stealth battlesuit and the fusion blasters mounted on it to silently eliminate high-priority targets from afar. Often exploiting cover or ambush tactics, Shadowsun's strategy involves drawing her enemies into vulnerable positions where they believe they are safe, only to turn the tables when the time is right. Kauyon is about patience, waiting for the enemy to make a mistake or overextend themselves, and then using the opening to strike with devastating effectiveness. Shadowsun's ability to control the battlefield from a distance with precise, calculated moves makes her one of the most dangerous tacticians within the Tau Empire, often defeating enemies without needing to engage them directly until the right moment. Also strong, it's cool too, because the White Scars who face off with Shadowsun, there's like strong vibes of that with the hit and run kind of tactics, and they actually exploit that against Shadowsun and beat her at her own game. And a little bit of Raven Guard and or Alpha Legion in there too. So.
Yeah, so I said kind of Imperial Fists and Proto-Rabo, and I was thinking about setting up traps and like setting up firing arcs, but maybe it's more than just kind of that. There is some of that stealth and subterfuge and all that. Yeah.
Stealth and ambush and yeah.
Okay, let's do Shasso Case and Monet the Lone Warrior. Shasso Case, on the other hand, embodies the spirit of Monad, or the Lone Warrior. This strategy is rooted in personal responsibility, where the commander often operates independently or with minimal support, focusing on adaptability, resourcefulness. Kais's approach revolves around the idea that victory can often be won through individual prowess and strategic flexibility. He fights on his own terms, using his XV-8 Crisis battlesuit and a mix of heavy weaponry such as the plasma rifle, burst cannon, and fusion blaster to adapt to any situation. Monat is about being self-reliant, and Kais often leading from the front, engaging the enemy directly, and responding to threats as they arise without waiting for reinforcement or backup. This solitary style of warfare gives him the freedom to choose his battles and dictate the terms of engagement, while other commanders may rely on large formations and coordinated tactics. Kais trusts his own abilities and the technology at his disposal to handle almost any challenge, proving that sometimes the greatest strengths come from standing alone. That's not very collectivist, Tau of you.
Hey. Yeah. So that kind of really shows how these different types of warfare have been mastered by these three very different leaders in the Tau Empire, and throughout their history, how Puretide has really shaped every aspect of Tau warfare and continues to do so to this day through his students.
Indeed. I also wanted to mention that in addition to summoning the demon of lust in the chat, I've also summoned the demon of intoxication and alcoholism in the chat.
The demon of alcoholism.
I'm sure it's a warp thing demon somewhere.
There's enough drinkers.
Get me a Jaganesh with unending flows of whiskey.
That's classic.
All right. Should we get to the call-ins?
Yeah, I think so. So up first, we got Aiden. Hey, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. And you did call for the demon of alcoholism and horniness. I am here.
Has arrived.
So how'd you feel about that episode? Anything speak to you specifically, or any thoughts?
If I say Shadowsun, am I going to get kicked?
Yeah.
Back to horny jail with you.
Fine. Just got out. Honestly, it was just really nice seeing deep into like how everyone was trained in their different styles. Like when I think of Tal, I often just think of just guns, and if you ever get near someone, you're gone. So it's nice seeing that they actually can fight orcs like hand to hand. It's not something you'd ever really think happening.
Yeah, exactly. But there are many ways to warfare. There are here's my question for you and everyone that I'm going to kind of get in the call in. I only have one big question this time. So we mentioned the three primary ones, but how would you make a commander to represent the Ryan, the Circle of Blades, or the Ripka, the Thousand Daggers, or the Mayan Kesh, the Unforeseeable Blade meta strategies? Do you have any thoughts of how you'd try to make a commander to fit that?
No, not really.
Okay, well, boot this guy. He's so focused on Shadowsun's titties.
Not going to answer that, but there may be something staring at me on a wall right now, and it's that poster.
Two objects pointed right at your direction. And no, they're not rail rifles.
Oh, thank God. I can focus on multiple things. Tit 1, tit 2.
Oh, man. Yeah, Lorehammer's horniest episode ever. I hate it. I fucking hate it. Okay, well, since you don't have a good answer for me, do you have anything else useful to contribute to this, or?
Sometimes, but not now, no. I'm just here to be famous, mate.
Well done.
He has to make an appearance on every episode.
I don't even actually listen. I just make shit up as I talk.
What kind of podcast is this?
Starts going off in a rant about Necron.
I thought it was an economics podcast, right?
Oh, man. Well, okay. I'm glad you called in. I guess we'll release you back to the wild of the chat room where you're free to do what you will.
Please know they're too horny even for me.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. Up next, we're going to call Grimaldus to the stage. Hey, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. I'm going to ask you the same question before we get your takeaway from the episode. Do you have any ideas of a Tau commander and how you would represent the Circle of Blades, the Thousand Daggers, or the Unforeseen Blade?
So I really like the Unforeseen Blade. I used to play quite a bit of the stealth units, and I really like the outflank ability. You stick that now with, an individual that has a short sword, or maybe Farsight grants Dawn Blade to this individual. Just come in and mop up guys. Blade sneaking in out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I like that you. That you also have the tabletop application.
Yeah,
this guy knows. This guy knows the Tau.
I'm just a nerd, so tabletop is where it's at.
Yeah, it's almost this kind of combination of the Montcat and the Kauyon, where it's like aggressive and stealthy. So you have the stealth suits, but they also have plasma guns and fusion swords.
And it's everything that is trained by Commander Puretide, whether or not be an exact application that they break down into those three groups, but he's going to teach every individual everything. But they're going to focus into their main groups. So they know a little bit about everything. So you can have like you said, stealthy, yet come in and hit hard. Be water, my friend.
Yeah, very cool.
Or in Jordan's case, whiskey. Flow like whiskey.
Excuse me. No, excuse me. Whiskey is the water of life. Have you not heard of this? It is water.
Mark, just kind of to shill with that same idea of the Unforeseen Blade. Mark built a really cool looking Tau assassin.
No,
I don't know if you still have that model or if you ended up in the abyss, but
it is trapped in the abyss of Canada still. So
okay.
Yeah.
It's cool to think that there could be Tau too. Like, I get really strong Assassin's Creed vibes where you have like a very aggressive assassin and the idea of the hidden blade and everything, the Unforeseen Blade, just in like style. And like, yeah, you kind of think like Imperial assassins too, right? Like there's potential for your own Tau version of assassins with experimental battle suits and experimental tech.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Any other thoughts, Grimaldus? There's a couple people in the chat that we'll get to if not.
Honestly, after having just wrapped up Empire of Lies, the Phil Kelly book, just hearing how everything integrated, like I just finished it up probably within like 4 hours of this episode. It was like right on point. It was a very, very sweet transition, and you guys pretty much hit it on point.
I make this whole show for you, right? This whole all 127 episodes are for you, Grimaldus.
Oh man, I fucking knew it, and I came in late too, man. Thank you. Well, you said you got other people waiting, so I'm gonna exit stage left and get the next guy in then. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks for calling. Yeah, up next we'll call up let's do Fuzz if you're ready.
I want to see what he's painting.
I'm working on a, not that's probably going to look, but working on a broadside battle suit right now while you're doing the Tau episode, of course.
Ooh.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Hey, actually, this episode I'm sure was just for me.
He says that's all the girls he likes.
Same question to you. We got the Circle of Blades, the 1,000 Daggers, and the Unseen Blade. Do any of those speak to you and how you'd want to represent them?
Oh man, I was thinking the 1,000 daggers. A really interesting way to do a commander for that would be to have one that really utilized the Tau Navy for just those really fast hit and run precision strikes, as well as things like the broadside battle suit or storm surge, just like nothing but like the longest of long range tactics coming from every direction, combined with just like fast aerial strikes, just those hit and run tactics.
Okay, yeah. Where you're just it's impossible to counter all the blades because they're all just coming at you so fast and so like so quick.
Exactly, just like from not only from the ground but from the air, and depending on the planet, I know some of the Tau auxiliaries are even aquatic species, so you could even have strikes coming from your
Yeah.
planet's oceans.
Very cool.
That's really cool. I like how you're incorporating the space and ships and like all the potential ways of doing this. It'd be a cool like fleet commander, more like or like an Air Force type commander. But I do like what you're saying, using all the different elements.
Yeah, I don't know, like, because obviously, with the Tau different casts, like the Navy and the Fire cast are the more military wings. I don't know if it's like the top end of the Firecast would always outrank the top end of the Aircast Navy, like for like the military Aircast, or like if you could have a commander of sufficient rank in the Aircast that they could also command like Fire Warrior ground troops.
That's a good question.
I would imagine, it comes to theater of war,
Yeah.
where like, okay, so if you both have equal Shasso and Core O, the Shasso is the master of the battlefield, where the Core O is like, well, when it comes to airspace, the Fire Warriors who are going in boarding parties, they're listening to the Core O and his directions on which ships to board and which ones to assault and all that kind of stuff. So I'd imagine, you'd break it down if they're both equal. Depends on if they're on the surface or in space.
Yeah, with as practical and pragmatic as the tower, I don't see them like not utilize. They would utilize something like that, and there wouldn't be any sort of like ego getting in the way as much as you would get in like the Imperium or some other things.
Yeah.
I mean, with what we have like on the tabletop and in the lore, I feel like it would probably come down to like a Firecast commander like Shadowsun, just putting the faith in like a trusted, Core O Aircast commander to like, here's my plan, you go execute it.
Yeah, for the greater good,
Exactly, the greatest good.
For the greatest good. That's how every conversation between these commanders would pretty much end. There wouldn't be that much division between them.
Yeah, and like if there was a fight, an ethereal would come in and be like, just like,
have you heard the story of Farsight?
Right.
Yeah.
I guess like is Farsight their version of heresy?
Yeah, it's close enough to it, I'd imagine.
That's what I keep saying. Is he's the Horus of the Tau.
Right. But he still believes in like the greater good, whereas like I didn't like Horus just like completely lose faith in the Imperium. But anyway, beside the point.
It's not a perfect one to one.
Right.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is true. I think like the ambitions and personalities would not get in the way the same way it would in the Imperium. Like this would not be an issue.
Yeah, like because they do have like they at least do have like the ethereals with that like supreme like authority to, if they don't like even what like Shadowsun is doing, they could just put the kibosh on her whole plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. Any other closing thoughts, or do we let you get back to painting?
I mean, I could just sit here and talk about like Tau shit all night long, but I'll let you get to somebody else. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Just remember, my DMs are always open, so slide in there with some Tau talk.
Absolutely.
Tau talk. It's like pillow talk.
Right.
But,
Right. Tau talk with Mark and Fuzz.
Oh my god. Okay, Fuzz. Adios, amigo.
we'll go through the Mantis Sutra.
All right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Y'all take care.
All right, we got Nemo Forever, and I warned everyone. I had him on the last episode, and this guy, oh, well, here he is.
Is it me? Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
Where am I?
You're somewhere.
You're on Lorehammer.
Oh, wow. Fancy being here. How you lads doing?
Good. So what do you think? Do you have any cool ideas on how to represent the Circle of Blades, the Thousand Daggers, or the Unforeseen Blade?
The one thing that I find myself coming away with the most from the Tau is how similar they are to the Ultra Smurfs, not in the meme sense, oh, that's definitely there, but in modern combat viability. When you have the various formations of the Imperium, forward to thought, few of them are more modern effective than the Ultra Smurfs. In the very same way, the Tau have that. They have super heavy armor, they have fires. The only thing that has a sticking point for me for the Tau is the logistics side. And I was harping on this a little bit with Grimaldus and Voice over on the server. Very good server you guys got, by the way. The best of servers. The most fantastic of servers. Chilling aside.
Okay, now I know you're reading a script for sure. Now, who gave you this script? That's why I accused you of the last time.
All right, you were memeing about Drunk Hammer. I'm on 8 drinks in this time. I was not planning to be here in the Voice, but you know what? You said that there was something like 4, 5, 6 people already in the chat waiting lined up. They can't be as bad as me, so hey, hell, I'll give it a shot. 8 drinks in. I have not yet been on any part of the Voice for this sober. Cash up front.
Yes, perfect.
But I do find that it's interesting that the Tau are surprisingly viable, because in combat from an industrial sense, logistics happen before the fight, and everything that happens after is the result of everyone, all their understanding of military everything. It happens after the logistics. It requires both. You can have the finest warriors in the world, but if they don't got bullets to shoot, if they do not have medical supplies to treat their wounded, which matters more for getting men willing to fight, regardless of where this human squishy thing, or if anything, living squishy thing, regardless of where that comes from, the ability to get a living thing to fight and willing to risk their life for something so abstract, because people rarely fight in wars for themselves, that's quite a thing. The Tau are there. When you compare them to the Imperium, they're a very small thing, but you get them fighting just as hard. They outpace them in technology. The scale compared to the Imperium is logistics, it's deployment, it's scale, it's planning. But they still hold their line enough to be enough for the Imperium not to be willing to spend the cost to wipe them out. Do you guys mind if I quote a little bit outside of the official lore and maybe outside of your channel?
This whole time, I thought you've just been quoting other things, man. The way you talk, it's so enthralling. Carry on.
All right. Quick disclaimer: I had that academic side, that orator. I do have a bit of an oratory career, academic career, music career. That's more of that kicking in out of instinct than anything else. Cash up front again. So on the Cupanon front, for the fan fiction side, the one thing they did incredibly well is describing the squishy element. The one thing that makes the Tau very compelling is the way they're capable of punching upside their weight. That's what gets me. That's the one thing I like the Tau for the most. Because when I go and I sit down and I try to compare their ability to fight Astartes in full armor, Dreadnoughts in full armor, they counter that with those super heavy battle suits. Even if they are as cheap as the stealth tier, and I know that they aren't all entirely cheap on the manufacturing side, the logistics side, they can contest Astartes, they can contest Dreadnoughts, they can contest the, damn it, what's the one up on Astartes armor? They were trying to replace eventually all legions with this pattern of armor.
Like Mark 10.
That's the one.
Terminator.
Terminator. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can contest Terminator, Dreadnought, and Astarte patterns of armor, regardless of era, with their battle suits. That's impressive. If you read through the Horus Heresy and you read through other fluff, that's very compelling, because many human empires who had STCs still could not fight on an equipment context against those 3 types of armor. And that's without accounting for the fleshy bit. They're capable of contesting at that level despite not having shit for melee. And the very first thing you see an Empire do in this setting is that once they get that really nice armor, they go right for melee. Because they can't scratch the armor. They don't even need shields. They don't need void shields. They can't scratch the armor. Somehow the Tau are able to compel their people to fight, regardless of what you think of the Ethereals and the fact that they very much are slaves. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm showing my bias.
Yeah, geez.
But regardless of Ethereals, regardless of equipment, regardless of logistics, regardless of skill, they can actually contest the Imperium. I dig that. I dig the hell out of that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like that logistical thing that they have mastered where I forget what, Christian, you said militaries typically have personnel-wise behind the scene, like 6 to 10 people behind the scenes. Well, the Tau have the air cast behind the scenes, they have the earth cast, and they have the water cast, and they have the ethereal cast all behind the scenes, and each one of them provides their logistical support, and whether it's transporting people or negotiating or building the weapons of war, they all kind of contribute to making this super efficient force.
I can make that even more ridiculous because each of those branches you just described, they all suffer from that. And then you got to get all those branches to work together. So now you got something closer to a 20 to 30, 20 to 1, or maybe 30 to 1.
Yeah.
Compared to combat arms to logistics. Of you got one guy in the front, 20 are behind him, supporting equipment.
Yeah, kind of a cool thought for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I like that. That's some good thoughts.
Hey, you put me in another grid reference and I'll give you another tangent.
I like it. We got a couple other people to jump to though, but logistical talk is always nice. I think we have planned with Nemo and Grimaldus, actually, we're going to do an episode, the 3 of us, on... I think we decided the High Lords of Terra, but we're still kind of flicking around ideas between the 3 of us, so that's going to be fun to look forward to.
Oh, hell, I didn't realize Grimaldus would be there in the episode, too. I'm so down for that.
Oh, did I? I wonder if I misnamed somebody.
That might have been me, something going over my head.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Yeah, thanks for calling in. Any closing thought or anything?
I say cheers, lads, and never you change.
Okay.
Try not to. I try not to improve my flaws. I will never change. I am set in my ways.
I'll never change. All right. Well, I think that's it for the call-ins. We're going long here. Maybe just one more quick question to you boys, Christian and Jordan. After hearing all that, do you have anything else that you would like to contribute on this commander and the different meta strategies or anything like that?
No, man, I said my piece, I think, about like all the inspirations around Commander Puretide, and little known fact that I too was a student of his as Shadowsun, and my mastery of fighting in small puddles of water is uncontested.
Unsurpassed, for sure.
Yeah. No, I think I've said all my pieces.
Yeah, I think I actually like this episode. it's kind of cool to dig deep into them and just like how they fight, really, and how they gain an upper hand. And even like Nemo was saying, I like how they really punch above their weight and make it makes like a convincing argument for why they're a formidable force in the galaxy. Like obviously I'm not convinced they would ever rival the Imperium, but again, they're enough of a nuisance to maybe get a codex and make the Imperium not just want to go in and conquer them, because it might be.
They're definitely the plucky underdogs of the setting. And I know I've given a lot of hate towards the Tau on this episode. I'm not gonna lie, they are on the bottom of my list, but that I love all of 40K, so even the bottom of my 40K list is still pretty high praise. I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay, well, fucking killer episode, boys. Let's just do our end of the notes and wrap her up. If you like listening to me share homebrew lore that you, the listeners, have written up, go check out the Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast. Lots of episodes out there. I recommend, what's a good one? The Yggdrasil episode. It's right around the 50 episode mark. It's about Exodites, and it was a lot of fun. Go check that one out. Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast.
Great. And if you like Star Wars and you like me and Jordan, come check us out at the Star Lores podcast. That's Lores with an L. We discuss, the deep lore of Star Wars, the setting, characters, places. We try to release bi-weekly, and come check us out over there.
And we got a couple new Patreon members in the last few days. We got Dennis and Dark Melon. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Our Patreon's really been growing. I do miss a couple people every now and again on the names and stuff. It's been growing a lot. It's been very encouraging to see. So go join the Lorehammer Patreon, support the show. You get ad-free content. So if you've listened to 15 different ads this episode, say fuck that. Give us $2.50 and you won't have to listen to ads ever again. You'll be free. Freedom. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Adios, everyone.